Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. It's Sarah Upside Down here, and ironically, some of you actually may be upside down if you're on a different part of the world. Um, Anyways, I do content for autism, ADHD, mental health, and learning disabilities. A lot of my stuff is more on my Facebook page or Instagram somewhat, but I'm trying to put more videos out today. My video is going to be more based on masking and what masking is, how I masked most of my life. I'm 29 now, will be 30 in May next year already. Oh. But, and then tips and things that can help you to unmask or to um, go through the process of trying to start that and just being able to be your true selves, your authentic selves, and just kind of some information on my autism story. I was going to do a video that kind of talked more about like my journey after I was diagnosed and like what I did after that, but I felt like I couldn't really quite do that video without this one because this is such a crucial part of my story and why I probably wasn't diagnosed a lot sooner. Also, if you're wondering why I'm dressed like this, well, it's the season of Halloween, and also one of my special interests or extreme hobbies that I like that saying, I got it from someone else on here, is Tim Burton, and so I'm actually dressed as Lydia for a little Halloween small get-together tonight. But, of course, today, out of all days, I'm wearing this and talking about masking, and I'm actually not dressed as my, I guess, normal self, which is actually just usually pajamas and, like, mom clothes or whatever, besides the few times that I go out. But anyways, I won't go too much into my special interests on all the Tim Burton and everything, and like I've loved it forever, loved it since I was a child. My son definitely fell into that with all the creepy stuff. My daughter loves Sally, etc., so on. Love Tim Burton, thank you. Um, so that's for why I'm doing all of this. Um, so masking. What is masking? And this is my opinion, my view of what masking um, is trying to fit the mold of a neurotypical society, but being autistic and basically suppressing more than 50, more than 75% of your actual tendencies, traits, stemming, personality, whatever, and doing it in order to either fit in, not get bullied, um, and not go through whether it be trauma from certain situations, and kind of using it as a protection mechanism, for me anyways, from going through trauma with bullying and other things like that that made me need to kind of fit in even more so that I didn't continue going through those things. And I'll dig in with that story in just a little bit and kind of like what I went through with that kind of stuff. Um, but basically, like not stimming as much, not um, or doing stems. Like I'll do stems like picking at my nails, biting my nails, doing all kinds of stuff. Like my whole family knows that I've always been super fidgety, always needing to move my hands, but not doing stuff like this where I kind of look at my fingers, or like this where I see it move. Stuff like that I've had to suppress. Rocking. And other stems. So basically not doing those in order to fit into the neurotypical things. Um, and really, neurotypicals can mask also. It's just their mask isn't something that they feel like they have to have all the time. They may use it to um, go through an interview process, or like in a certain setting where they need to be more professional, and so they kind of, it's not like they're like, you know, uh, being fake. It's just, they need to act a certain way in a certain setting. Well, for autistics, it's like having to do that all the time. Like you always feel like you need to be someone else. In every single group, you're like trying to be the chameleon. And a lot of females, and males too, really on the spectrum that do mask are like chameleons, and they still don't completely fit in, and they still may not quite get it, but they learn to try to be what other people want them to be, and that's kind of what masking entails. Um, so in turn with that, it can be very harmful, um, because you can get to a point where you're not able to recognize yourself. Like a lot of times I just get lost, and you can go place to place trying to survive in society and suppressing all the things about yourself, um, and trying to find more things to be more acceptable. So um, I'll just go into a little bit of my story on how I masked and where that started and why I felt like I had to do so, and then kind of how long I've been sort of was in that. So my masking started in elementary. I was in third grade, and no, sorry, I was in fourth grade. But when I was in third grade, I remember, being in school, and even the years before that, I was pretty shy. I didn't talk to a lot of people. I wasn't, as hyperactive and things like that. Like I didn't quite get things, and I knew that I was somewhat different, but I seemed to do okay with like the structure of things, stuff like that. Um, but I didn't socialize as much, and um, I just was a really quiet kid. Nobody that knows me much now would have ever guessed that was me. And I kind of talked about that a little in my last video. But we moved to a new town whenever I was in fourth grade, and like, in this town, if you didn't own like a 2 to 3 story house, or like you didn't live in a specific neighborhood, or they couldn't walk down the road to your house, or you didn't wear certain clothes, like, for like most schools, but I feel like this one was a little more extreme on the bullying side. Like it was very much about money and like status and stuff, even being that young. And I started to come more into myself. I started, of course, like I said on the last video, doing the crazy hairdos, doing all the funny stuff, and um, I loved it, and I loved every bit about it. I looked like I walked out of a Hot Topic magazine back in, 2000 and whatever. I'm not good with figuring that out. But, um, my mom actually did accept, I mean, a lot of it was probably odd or whatever to her, but she was pretty accepting towards it, and also it was all the stuff that I loved. That, and my entire room was in Japanese, Chinese, like just antiques and stuff like that. I didn't really have like a lot of toys. I just had everything lined up and set up, and that's just how I was. Like, I don't know, my mom just probably always saw me that way. But that's when I also started getting bullied a lot more, and I went through a lot of traumatizing experiences then. I would come home all the time crying, not understanding why I couldn't socialize, why I couldn't fit in, like what was going on here, why don't they like my hairdos, like I'm just being myself. And we moved a lot, so we moved again after that. And in the next school, um, going into the very end of fifth grade, I believe, I decided to change my whole wardrobe, and that's when the major masking started. And I think a lot of people, it starts kind of in those areas because it starts getting harder on what these things need to be accepted. Um, so I like took all the funky stuff that I loved or whatever and changed the whole thing. It was like Mean Girls, and I'm trying to like fit in with the Mean Girls over here, and except for I'm probably honestly more the weird friend with the fun hair, that was in the movie. But still, like that's what I was trying to do because I didn't want to get picked on anymore or didn't want to get bullied. Like the 1 or 2 friends that I had, we definitely got like shoved in corners, all that kind of stuff, and like just called names, and we had no idea what was going on though. We just couldn't understand why people were like that. So changing and putting on that mask started then, and I started to change into this person that I would feel would be more accepted. I thought that if I changed my outfit and my clothes and everything, well, that I looked like I could fit in because, well, it's another stereotype that like females can't wear makeup and be pretty and be on the spectrum, and that's just insanely ridiculous. I wasn't interested in a lot of those things like a lot younger, but unless it was like sort of like the darker side of stuff, or I loved all the just the very unique sides of like all that. It was more to play dress up or something versus like needing to look a certain way for other people or put your makeup on for whatever. Um, anyways, hate that stereotype because it actually caused it to be worse whenever I did dress like more typical, I guess, or with the skirts and the, the just skirt, the pretty and like a girl, um, that I could just blend right in as far as looks. But when it came to like my personality still, it just eventually would break and it wouldn't work out. And um, some of those girls would tell me like, you need to, if you want to be in this group or whatever, then you can't be friends with this person, this person, this person, or whatever. And that's when I like totally was like, no, that's not going to work because I can change my clothes and my hair and whatever else that, on the outside appearance, but changing like what's inside, it just wasn't going to work. I was like, if they are going to be the ones to tell me who I need to hang out with, then that's not who I need to be hanging around. Um, and so, but I thought that if they accepted me enough with this mask and these fake clothes and all these fake things, that um, when I wanted to the next year start dressing back into stuff that I liked, that would work out. And that's actually not how stuff works. You don't like get accepted and then get to be yourself, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, you're still great." No, like I obviously had the complete wrong idea about that. So I started dressing back how I used to because I was already in this group and it was whatever, and came back to school that year and totally got outcasted immediately. It was like that. As soon as I started being myself, boom, done. Like, can't do that. And I just didn't understand it. I can't even begin to explain that. But that's kind of my story, and it continued through high school and after that, on and on and on, continuing to do that until I had kids. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. Masking for me caused me to become a perfectionist that was accepted slightly more by the neurotypical society or society, period, but not accepted by myself. Um, it was exhausting and it still is because it's still like it's like a habit that you're trying to break. Like you don't always see when you're doing it, and it's still like a defense mechanism to help, or protection really mechanism, in a way that it just comes up. It becomes a part of you to do that. And there's a lot of stuff about the brain and all that uh, that I could talk about, but it's not a real life for autistics. Like we put the mask on, and then we put another mask on, and then we do it longer and longer, and the longer that we do it, the longer it will take to find our true face. Without knowing about my autism, I wouldn't have been able to start the process of taking my masks off. I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I would be trying to I wouldn't be trying to find my own success or how I see it, and um, to be my authentic self. Even with all the draining, masking, and all of those things, I would still manage to not probably been completely accepted. And I honestly had a really hard time holding my autistic traits in later in life, especially after having kids. I didn't have the energy anymore. I don't have the energy to keep on masking and being what everybody else needed me to be everywhere else because I have children that energy needs to go into. So all the energy that I had to mask, and why I've probably found out as an adult that I'm autistic, um, with ADHD and the whole slew, whatever, is because I couldn't cover it up anymore, and because I don't want to. So that's why some of those things can be so harmful, and why I choose to unmask. Masking kept me from so many things, because, and it wasn't so much other people's fault, was mine in some ways too, because I would focus so much of my energy on those people, and even, being codependent and like wanting them to accept, like, this person that's not even really me, that like I would do all this stuff for them, and then I would never go towards my own success in myself or life or as a parent or whatever else, because I just got into this hole of basically being lost. Like, I couldn't see who I was in the mirror anymore. Like, I just wasn't who I truly wanted to be. So, figuring that out, I have gone along with trying to come up with different ways. And I also learned that not to take your mask off so quick. Oh my gosh. Just like, my thinking is like, okay, well, since I figured all this out and all this autism stuff out, I'm just going to take it off and like take them all off at the same time, and like I'll let everybody know, and like all this kind of stuff. No, that was not the greatest idea ever. It actually was not at all, because I mean, for me, because then I was able to find things out quicker, but for other people, I could see why it is more difficult on their side to see all this about me all of a sudden, and, just like have no idea what's going on, because I just decided to, let everybody know, like, all of this information. Um, but if I was to go back, I probably would have done it a lot slower. Number one, like, it's a slow process, but I didn't know, and I didn't have any guidance at that time. I didn't have my autism community. I didn't have any of those groups or the people that I've met recently to help and guide me at that moment. So I was just kind of going off the cusp and just, just right out there. Here it all is. I had no guidance whatsoever on that. So, um, yes, my tips would be take it really slow. Don't just throw it all out there real quick. Not because for other people, but because people do need to be able to process some of this stuff it's honestly kind of hard. And we process it all. We're doing it all in a different way, and like we're taking it all in. It became a special interest for me, but for other people it is a little bit difficult, and I would have done it a lot slower for myself, and for, just to help them understand a little better. Um, Other tips is that I had to go remember things all the way back from when I was younger, like, what did I like? What did I not like? What were my interests then? Because even though I'm a mom, I still want to look at, having a career later after I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I used to do hair. It wasn't my thing, and I'm not people. And no, no, thank you. Like, love fashion, but it's just not my thing. And all of the jobs that I had set out were still things that I'm extremely interested in now, like neurology, psychology, cybersecurity, um, like anything that's like any sort of like detective figuring stuff out, like problem solving, whatever, and then like putting things together, all that kind of stuff. And it was more in a complete opposite field than what I was more pushed into doing, because that's what people thought I was good at. So I've been able to look back at that. I also got rid of all of my clothes, which is, this is kind of far-fetched. This is actually before I found out I had autism, that I got rid of all my stuff and was doing a minimalist thing. It actually helped move me into figuring out about my autism. But I got rid of pretty much all my clothes, and then I could start over with a new wardrobe of things that I actually liked, which was not most dresses. Like, I'm wearing this for like a costume type thing, but I do not like them. I didn't when I was a child, I didn't now, and so I love pants with pockets. I have more of a, not really like menswear clothing, but like I have more of a non-conforming like clothes, you know. I just sort of wear what I like. I like fashion, but I also like stuff that is innovative and has pockets and is useful. And so I've been able to see all those tiny little details and figure some of those things out, just by looking back through my childhood and kind of digging up those good things about me, the good things that I liked and what I like to do. Um, and hmm. So, for instance, before I probably wore like a lot more bright clothing and things like that. I could not stand any of that when I was a kid. And now I know why, because it was going against my sensory needs. But, you know, I was forced to wear some of that stuff. My mom just didn't know. But I could not stand pink and a lot of stuff like that. My daughter actually loves all that now. It's sort of hard for me to look at. But it's still pretty and all that. It's just that, like, I'm more of a sensory averter. And so, like, I like more of the dark clothes, things like that. And so now most of my closet consists of more of that. There's not a lot of bright, fun, sparkly stuff. I can have that every so often, and it's nice. Um, and then I became more cautious of who I chose to be my friends. Turns out that that is exponentially less, but it's worth it because they are real friends. They accept me for all my quirks, eccentricities, info dumping, and some of them are also autistic, so